Thank you. So who here thinks of themselves as an activist for immortality? Show of hands. Few people. Okay, so I am in the right spot. I just had to check. Actually, keep your hands up for a second, though. Everyone look around. Look at the people who have their hands raised. These are your brothers and sisters that are actually on the front line of the war against aging and death. These are the people who deserve massive recognition. And if you didn't raise your hand, you're probably wishing you did right now. But that's okay. So another show of hands, who here knows why activism is important to the immortality movement? Okay, good, about the same people. So this is a pretty smart crowd. Activism is important, and important enough that we have an entire panel for it at RADFest. So what I'm going to talk about is why activism, or what activism is, why it's important, and what we can do as activists to be more effective. So the first question is, what is activism? There's three key parts of activism I want to talk about. The first is outreach, and I like to define this in a very clear way. Immortality outreach is defined as talking to people who are not interested in longevity or immortality about longevity in an attempt to get them interested and passionate about immortality. That's what outreach is. We can talk to people who are already interested all day long. That's preaching to the choir. Outreach is bringing more people in. So that's how I define it. And this is done by talking to family and friends, and just by your connection with them and seeing your interest, they'll start to think about it a little more, and over time, possibly think about it for themselves and want to live longer on their own. And then also when you're out in public and you're talking to people, in coffee shops or at restaurants or wherever you may be, you can bring immortality or longevity into the discussion. You want to be a little bit careful with that because people get a little scared, so sometimes you just talk about health. But hey, anything helps. And then the next part of activism is a little bit more of a scary part, and this is pushing regulations to reform and actually allow for faster innovation in the medical world. And this is scary because I'm sure most of us can think of examples of people who have taken on agencies for this end and not only have failed, but have ruined their lives in the process. So it's a scary world to go into, but it is so crucial because it's one of the major holdbacks that have kept us from crossing that finish line. And then the third key I want to talk about for activism is the exciting one. And that's where you back the scientists to do what they do best. This is where you give them the support, the energy, the funding, the exposure to help them cross their finish line in whichever trials or therapies they're working on that hopefully become effective. And this is most exciting because that's where we see direct results from activism. So the next question is, why is activism in the immortal movement important? And I want to answer that with a question. Why do we not have a cure to aging and death right now today? Now, the first answer is because science hasn't yet discovered the cure to aging and death. And I mean, obviously that's true, but let's dig a little bit deeper. Why has science not discovered the cure to aging and death yet? And the big answer is because of archaic regulation that is holding back progress. And innovation has to have freedom in order to thrive and to flourish. So when regulation is holding things back, slowing things down, not only is progress slowed, but innovation is killed. And so many things that could be effective in saving lives, they're not just moving slow, they're dying and don't go anywhere. So we have to reform this regulation in order to free these geniuses. But why, if we know that? We know that if we were to reduce regulation, especially in the medical industry, and free these people to move faster, how come that's not done already? We know that would save lives. There's a lot of people who want that to happen. Why has it not? And the answer is there's not enough people who demand a cure to aging and death there's just not enough people. And the people that are demanding the cure to aging and death, they aren't being loud enough to be heard by the regulators to actually affect change. So that brings us to the third point. What can we do as activists in the immortality movement to be more effective to actually affect change? Who here's ever been to a symphony? Or if you haven't been to one, you know what it is and the concept. Okay, so there's like 50 musicians or so, I don't know the exact number, and they're all playing different instruments. So imagine for a second, imagine you go to a symphony, you get there early, you sit down in your seat, and you're watching the band as they're warming up. And you look over and you see the flutes, and they're like doing their scales, like that, and little bits of the piece, so that way they can be prepared and warmed up. And while you're watching them, you hear the noise of the rest of the band as they're warming up. But you don't hear exactly what they're doing because you're focused on the flute, so you're hearing them. But now you look over to the trumpets, and the sound of the flute kind of blends into the cacophony of sound, and now you can hear what the trumpets are doing. You hear them buzzing and doing their scales and whatever parts of the piece that they want to do. And then you look over to the French horns after that, and then the trumpets fade back into the sound, and same thing, you hear them. But what happens when the conductor walks on stage? He comes up to the podium, he puts his hands up, and all the musicians, they come to attention, and it's quiet, and then he moves his hands, and everybody plays the same song. So what do you hear? The song they want you to hear. It doesn't matter who you watch or what you're trying to listen for, you're going to hear that song. And that's what we need to do as an immortality movement. We need our voice to become one voice. There are so many people all across the globe who are doing amazing things. They're pulling in a lot of people. They're being very loud, very vocal. Jim Stroll and Joe Bardeen and Radfest, that's one example. And you can look at what we're doing here, and it's beautiful. And then you can look at Brian Johnson and what he's doing, and that's amazing. He's gathered a huge following in a pretty short period of time, and has poured a lot of money into this. But while you're watching Brian Johnson, it's easy to kind of lose the voice of Radfest off in the distance because you're focused on Brian Johnson now. And then all around the globe, it's the same thing with different specializations within the longevity movement. You can hear them, and it's beautiful. Every single one of them, you can like some, you cannot like some, and that's fine. But the fact that they're working towards that end of killing death over there, that it makes them a beautiful person, whether you agree with their system or not. But what were to happen if the stage were set where every voice, even though we're talking about longevity, every voice were to come and sing the same song, say the same message of longevity and immortality? Then the message is heard loud and clear, crystal clear. It can't not be heard. And that is when change is truly affected on the regulatory level. So the three keys to activism that I talked about, the outreach, the regulation, the backing the scientists, they all work in concert. And it works better when the concert is a symphony directed as a single voice. So if you want to hear more about this, I went really fast, so there's going to be a lot of time for questions. I'm helping you out here. If you want to hear more about this, I can talk about Immortalis tomorrow at 1 o'clock on the RAD Clinic stage. I'm going to be painting the vision of what we are doing to bring all this together, to set the stage for the scientists that we see, the geniuses that are here. We all hear them crying, basically, that regulation is holding them back. Funding is not there, and we are working to change that. We want death to die so much faster than is going to happen. So to learn more about what we're doing, come to my talk 1 o'clock tomorrow. And Jose, I'll bring you back up. Thank you.
Yeah, but actually, remember that this is a revolution, and the whole world needs to unite. So get your flag. We have, as we had the 4th of July just a few days ago, we need to all unite from the USA, Spain, everywhere, and kill the global enemy. The global enemy, of course, is aging and death. So we will kill you back in there, Eric. So we have to kill you. Anyway, I forgot, but to show my balloons, because all of you who come to Madrid, we will have balloons, T-shirts, also banners, and Spanish flags while we walk to the City Hall of Spain, Madrid. And these are for the people who make questions, okay? I have several balloons here for those who ask questions. And thank you so much, Cody. You have to be all tomorrow, 1 p.m., okay, at the RAD Clinic.
Thanks, Jose.